For years, my job as the night receptionist at this old hotel on the city's edge was the definition of boring. The place was a ghost of its former self, all peeling wallpaper and buzzing, dim lights. We rarely had more than a couple of guests. It was quiet, predictable, until one rainy November night when everything changed. The storm was really coming down when she walked in around 9. She wore a long black coat and a wide-brimmed hat that cast a deep shadow over her face. Her voice was low, almost a whisper. "I'd like a room for one night," she said. "Room 313, if it's available." I felt a chill run down my spine. Room 313. It had been sealed for over 20 years, ever since the incident. A man was found dead in there. The official report said suicide, but the old-timers whispered a different story. They said something took his life from him. I tried to tell her the room was unavailable, closed for maintenance, but she cut me off. Her tone was soft, but there was no arguing with it. "I'll pay in cash." She slid a stack of bills across the counter way more than the room cost. My gut screamed at me to say no, but against my better judgment, I handed her the key. The brass number 313 glinted as she took it and walked towards the elevator. Her footsteps echoed for an unnervingly long time down the empty hall. Hours crawled by. The storm outside got worse, thunder shaking the old building. Around midnight, I noticed the elevator had stopped on the 3rd floor, even though no one had called it. I leaned in to check the security monitors. The black and white camera showed the 3rd floor hallway. At first, nothing. Then, a flicker of movement near room 313. It was a woman, but not the one who checked in. This one wore an old, soaked white dress. Her wet hair was plastered to her shoulders. She had her back to the camera, but something was horribly wrong with how she stood, like her neck was bent at an impossible angle. I blinked, thinking my eyes were playing tricks on me or the feed was glitching. When I looked again, the hallway was empty. I tried the intercom for that floor. Dead silence. No answer. A few minutes later, the front desk phone shrieked. My heart leaped into my throat when I saw the caller ID room 313. I picked it up, my hand trembling. "Front desk," I managed to say. "How can I?" The shaky voice cut me off. It was the woman from earlier. "There's someone in my room," she whispered, terrified. "He's standing in front of the mirror, and he's smiling at me." My stomach turned to ice. "Stay right there," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm coming up." I grabbed the master key and bolted for the elevator. When the doors opened on the 3rd floor, it was dead silent. The only light was a weak, flickering bulb right above room 313. I called out, "Miss, are you okay?" "Nothing." I unlocked the door and pushed it open. The room was empty. The bed was a mess, and the curtains were whipping around from an open window, letting the rain pour in. It smelled like wet dust and dread. But there was no sign of the woman. No coat, no bag, nothing. It was like she had just vanished into thin air. Confused and deeply unsettled, I shut the window and backed out of the room. I told myself I'd check the security footage when I got back downstairs. As soon as I reached the front desk, the phone rang again. I froze. The screen lit up with the same number of room 313. Slowly, I lifted the receiver. "Hello." The voice on the other end wasn't the woman's. It was deep, distorted, and slow, like someone speaking from the bottom of a well. "I've come out of the mirror," it gurgled. "The room is empty now. But it's not mine alone anymore." The line went dead. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely function. I forced myself to look at the security monitors again. What I saw made my blood run cold. The camera feed from the 3rd floor showed me. It showed me standing right outside room 313, talking to someone I couldn't see. But I was still at the front desk. I was watching myself on the screen. Then, with a growing sense of horror, I watched as the me on the monitor slowly turned its head to look directly into the camera, and it smiled. A wide and natural smile. The feed dissolved into static. The next morning, the manager found the front desk empty. My jacket was still on the chair. The guest log was open to the last entry, room 313, paid in cash. But there was no ID on file for the woman, and no security footage of her ever entering the hotel. The only strange clip was of me, standing in an empty hallway, talking to myself. Room 313 was sealed again, for good this time. The hotel itself didn't last much longer and was shut down. Years later, new owners bought it and tried to reopen it under a new name. They found the door to room 313 was still locked, but from the inside. And they say that every single night, at exactly 3:13 a.m., the phone at the front desk still rings, even though the line to that room was disconnected a long time ago. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more chills. Stay safe out there.